Welcome to the Can Innovate podcast, the first ever podcast designed to showcase Canadian thought leadership. These innovators share industry insights, entrepreneurial best practices, lessons learned, and other tips that we can incorporate right into our lives, our careers, and our businesses. So let's get inspired. So, hey, innovators, I'm pretty excited. I got Dr. Daniel Shapiro, who is a Canadian entrepreneur and an academic. He's been doing such amazing stuff in the world of artificial intelligence, including consulting. And he's got this amazing opportunity that he's working with Lemay, which is doing some pretty interesting stuff that is really innovative beyond belief. So welcome. You are a really fascinating individual. Like, I was reading that you've got over 30 peer-reviewed publications and patents, and I'm looking at you and I'm like, you're not very old looking. So
yeah,
what?
I get that a lot. I have 3 kids at ages you, 4th on the way.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, so why make things easy when you can make them hard?
I love it. I think that's probably your motto in terms of also with Lemay, right?
Yeah, well, we're doing a complicated thing. We're doing AI consulting, and so complicated is kind of how it goes.
Love it. So for our listeners out there, can you just kind of talk about what Lemay is and what it does?
Sure. So me and my buddy started this 3 years and a few days ago. That's when we actually registered the company. We started a bit earlier, and we said, we're going to do consulting, but we're going to do something cool. We're going to do AI consulting. Artificial intelligence is hard to do, and most companies are not good at that. They're good at whatever they're already good at. And so we said, okay, we can help with this. For the easy stuff, people Google it and do it themselves. But for the more challenging stuff, we help.
See, I love this. So for listeners out here, can you kind of explain exactly what artificial intelligence is? Because there's also machine learning and other dynamics in the ecosystem. And I think we tend to mix and confuse things.
Yeah, so think from the perspective of a company about what is artificial intelligence and machine learning. It's different from the consumer. So we're a business to business, like we help companies do machine learning. And machine learning doesn't capture everything. There's some stuff outside of machine learning that's also artificial intelligence. And so AI seems to be the broadest term. Let's pick the broadest thing. Companies collect data. They spend lots of time protecting that data with security, aggregating it up into a big bucket, and not leveraging it to do stuff. So we're really in this space of taking that data the companies already have and leveraging it to do the existing stuff better or new stuff given the data that they have, often by correlating it with outside information. So good Canada example is if you have postal codes of customers, you can switch that into population. You can join it with outside information from StatsCan to better understand your customer. And that helps you with customer segmentation. If you're doing marketing and sales, you want to reach out to your high net worth customers with different messaging than with your blue collar customers, for example. Or you may find that you've got a customer who's only buying from you a little bit, but with a lot of purchasing power, who looks like and behaves like your high revenue to you customers. And so that kind of thing, that data science, predictive analytics, that's the space that we play in.
See, this is really fascinating because, they always keep saying that they want Toronto to be the AI capital and do all this amazing stuff. And they're investing so much in innovation and, tech skills and so on. And it's really interesting because, everyone's kind of really scared about what AI is a little bit, especially when it comes to privacy. So how does that kind of fit in with, I know you're B2B, but also helping as a consultancy with consumers and their privacy?
So the way I like to think about it is from the person who works in the company. Putting the end user side for a second, companies are made of humans. And often they're worried okay, if we adopt AI, there goes my job, I'm out on the street. That's kind of not how it works. We're at an all-time high of my lifetime of employment. So obviously that didn't happen. It's robotic process automation and using AI to make stuff better. I like to think of it as the new Excel. When spreadsheets came out, all of a sudden your accountant didn't just get deleted and it's a computer that's hey, can I file your taxes? Although there's more and more automation in that field. So it's part of a continuum of stuff getting better, stronger, faster that, first of all, is unstoppable. It's not my opinion is going to make it go faster or slower. But also, it's a good thing. It's a positive because we can make people better at what they do by taking out the mundane and sometimes the very sophisticated and helping them to do more with less. So humanity has a lot to accomplish that we haven't done. Having a whole bunch of automation is great for us.
I love that. Do more with less. I could totally use that in my life. I mean, who else can't use, not use that?
Exactly. And hey, we do it for money, which is great.
And that's just it, right? And there has to be a win-win model somewhere. So that's interesting because a lot of people do have that conception is that they are going to lose their jobs with all this automation. And, and it is the next evolution of things. So what could employees do to kind of stay ahead of the curve a little bit?
So the C.D. Howe Institute has a nice report on what jobs are at risk of automation. If you're a babysitter, this does not affect you. There's no robot who's going to come watch your kids. On the other hand, if you're a truck driver, you're in really big trouble. You should see the writing on the wall and go wow, I should go talk to my blacksmith about this. There's going to be a trend of certain sectors that are highly impacted by AI, and it's going to be very specific. It's not going to be like everyone on average their job gets a little bit easier. It's going to be certain people, their jobs disappear, kind of like Uber did to cab drivers. It's not a small disruption. But for most people, it's going to make no difference. So if you're a lawyer, you'll just be a more productive lawyer. Productivity increases are great for everybody because then, the Uber is a very good example. Having nothing to do with the AI part of Uber, just using untapped resources more effectively, all of a sudden you need less cars on the road because they're being better utilized. So there's unexpected good from adopting machine learning technology. And I mean, good on us. I mean, I wish that we were working on Terminator level super smart AI, but the kind of stuff that we're working on, no one's working on that. The kind of stuff that we're working on, whether it's in defense, government, internal audit, it's all stuff that humans suck at anyway. Humans are terrible drivers. We kill people. We drive drunk. It's terrible. Don't let the people drive. What a bad idea. Or we do a lot of work in internal audit. We've got this product in internal audit. And what we've done is somehow, I don't know how we ended up here, we asked humans to read thousands of pages of super boring internal audit reports and correlate information on page 2 and page 397 across a 10-year period. Humans suck at that job. Let the computer do that job. So there are things where humans are really good and we belong. But more often than not, where you see AI being applied in these automation or above human level performance tasks like driving, it's because people we believed we were good at it because we didn't know better. But it turns out we weren't that good at it. So yeah, it's a good thing.
And especially now they can also drive high, right? And so it adds to it. I've always been a girl that likes to be driven around. I have to be honest. I've always been that girl. So I've always been adopting that before Uber even showed up.
Funny. Yeah, all you have to do is visit Oregon to see a wave of the future.
What does that look like?
So they've got the same kind of issues where, big open spaces, people driving high, drunk. Just look at the statistics and you go to yourself, this is it's not ideal.
No, probably not. So is there one industry that is really leading the AI movement itself, or are you seeing across different things?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say there's not a particular vertical where it makes a super big difference. It's very across industries. So just within our consulting firm, we've got, I like to think of it from the term of not the what vertical, but what's the type of the data set. So you've got image, video, audio. If you look at my past work, you'll see that it crosses lots of different data types. So for example, in finance, there's a lot of time series analysis where you're looking at numbers through time. So Bloomberg, Thomson Reuters, that kind of data that goes across time for lots and lots of signals. Whereas in an HR firm, you'll have lots of paper, right? Lots of documents, and it's document classification and topic modeling and stuff like that. So the way that the industry is adopting machine learning and artificial intelligence is about functionality. It's very not super specific. It's super general, which is great because it applies everywhere. Think customer support. Everybody who sells something, customer support. This is not a super specific to one vertical. But it's getting creepy good, amazing good.
creepy good sounds like a bit of the negative side, but
yeah. So I've had some media exposure recently saying like, guys, don't trick people. That's not nice. So like Google has some stuff out in the past year or so that they're trying to like convince people that it's a real human who's calling on the phone, and that's not good.
Yeah, but can't we tell, or is the voice that humanized?
Oh, it's so good. I don't know if you've heard the Google Duplex, but it's pretty awesome. Right now, they're just using it to like order pizzas and stuff. But I know that other companies are using it in a very like scammy way to try and sell you stuff. And then if you ask a weird question that the system doesn't know how to answer, it like bumps over to a human, and then you go like, "Oh my god, that was so super creepy! I can't believe I was talking to a computer I didn't know." That's not cool.
So do you think some of those telemarketers that call me all the time are real humans, or are they actually, do you think they're actually like bots that are calling me?
So I know, because of like personal experience, some of them are actually bots, and you wouldn't know.
No, because I actually thought
what's interesting though is the if they have a non-American accent, they're human. Like the ones that they're making to fake you out sound like Mary Jane. They sound like super plain, often a girl's voice. So like, you know when to be suspicious. Just ask a really weird question, and then the conversation will slow down. You get bumped over to a real human. It's not a scam. It's like a very sophisticated robocall to sell you real stuff.
So I got to ask this question. I don't know if you know, since you said about the girl's voice, like Siri's a girl's voice, Google Home, Alexa, like all those things are a girl's voice. Why is that?
It's dystopian. Yes, it's because money. People buy stuff from a girl voice more than from a boy voice. They trust the voice more. There's been user studies on this. And for the same reason that you shouldn't be able to select the gender of your kid in ultrasound, it's kind of unfortunate that we've said, like, we'll do whatever makes the most money, and therefore this is the world we live in where every service robot is a girl. Yeah, it's not ideal. We talk about, like, pay equality and gender equality, and then all of a sudden when money's involved, it's like, nah, never mind, everything's a girl.
Weird. Okay, so
also, it's made by boys primarily, and boys want to make girl robots, not boy robots. So there's a whole sociological aspect to it.
That is fascinating. That is so crazy. So tell me something. What do companies do wrong with AI?
So much. So much. Okay, so there's a few things. One is they tend to think that it's for marketing purposes, and this is a big mistake. Like, don't tell people you have AI. Just do it because it's good for you. And so I've seen like a lot of vanity projects that don't actually like make the company a data-driven organization, and that's unfortunate. I mean, what you really want is to kind of convert the way your company works to run on data instead of be a data manufacturer. Many companies have systems that produce data that they then store. It's better if you collect data and use that to drive your business. So like data is your fuel rather than data is the thing that you barf out. And this is true even of like content aggregators. So like if you're selling stock photos and videos, even though you're collecting and storing content, you can apply lots of artificial intelligence to sales, marketing, support, engineering to be more data-driven in what videos you promote. So like my dissertation was on recommender systems, on like how do you pick which Netflix videos to show people kind of thing. That was on my thesis. I'm just saying that's the area. So what you want is to make your company more efficient and make more money, not to go like, hey, look, I'm going to stick a big AI sticker on the front of my website and then people will buy more of whatever. So yeah, one of the big fallacies is upper management is super aware of machine learning and says to middle management, go buy. And middle management goes, I don't really know how to do it, so we'll do some marketing type projects like chatbots or something like very front-facing to make people go like, oh, look, they have AI. But who cares? So like what you really want is to open up the like box of worms and monsters that is the like core of the engine and start to rip it out and replace it with this new way of doing stuff. It's a bit more painful, but it's like much more impactful when you can like make a big change than make a small change.
But that must be really difficult because that's also a mindset curve of an entire or upper management organization to think differently because they want quick
upper management has buy-in, but in these large organizations, upper management has surprisingly little power. Like, they're not writing code, they're not managing the people who write code, they're not managing those people either. Like, in a big organization, they basically set the agenda and then everyone else has to execute. So my experience has been upper management, and I'm talking internationally, so like in UAE and Israel and Europe, upper management totally gets it. Their buy-in is there, but it's middle management that has difficulty of like lack of education and experience, like kind of fear of don't take the thing that's working and break it, which is a rational fear. And there's also a lot of like failure cases where companies try and adopt AI and then quietly kind of walk away and do something else. Often because the plan was wrong, the gap analysis was wrong, the like expectations were misaligned. So like, for example, there are some things that humans will be better at for a long time that computers are not good at automating. And oftentimes people will like not understand the difference between super hard or impossible research and super easy engineering because they don't know the field. But if whoever it is in management set the agenda, said like, that thing that like is really hard for humans, we'll make the AI do it and it'll be great. And then there's like some significant project failure, like cost overruns, project like just sets on fire. And then people go like, I don't like AI anymore. So like it's really the Wild West, really, really the Wild West.
So I'm just thinking, what questions should I be asking myself, pretending I'm in management? Mm-hmm. What questions should I be asking myself to say I need to kind of look at a process or an area that may be automated for either artificial intelligence project versus maybe a new software solution that can do something?
So the way I like to look at it, it goes into like three categories. You've got the data part, which is, do you have a database administrator who understands this stuff? Do you have the infrastructure to store the data properly, that it's like more centralized and not like distributed and stovepiped? So there's like the whole data side. Then you've got the middle end, which is like machine learning development. Do developers and managers have the resources they need in terms of, can they spin up a virtual machine that has the right software to do machine learning, that can talk to a GPU if necessary, that can basically save all the build-up time to try one thing. If the effort to try something is let's make a giant project, that's like an internal organizational problem. And so that's the middle end of it, where you want to make sure that the people have what they need to try stuff. And then the deployment part is you want to have a system, a standardized system for getting the work product out. So there's, in the middle end, you're maybe building models, doing data science, but you got to get stuff back into production. So do the DevOps people understand how to roll back and forward models, like some REST API deployment framework, maybe with Kubernetes for scaling, for load balancing, all that stuff, the front end, should be in a big organization, like standardized, so that the trains can run on time. So that's one side of it, which is the like beginning, middle, and end of the story, starting with data and ending with getting stuff into the product. And then you have the other side of it, which is like across those. So human and skills development. So like, do the people in those different areas know what they're doing or need like have gaps in education or whatever? You've also got the infrastructure side, which is like, are the servers installed properly in like dev, integration, production, management? Like, do you have the right infrastructure? And really policy as well. So like, is it your policy to have all the data encrypted in transport? Or are you like, I don't care? So I'm not saying what the right answer is. I'm just saying like there needs to be across the organization a policy analysis. So often we'll actually partner with like management consulting firms to we do the AI magic and they do their consulting magic. And that works quite well. So yeah, it is a struggle to kind of continuously review these things. It's kind of like when you're running a business, you're always talking about cash flow, customer list, pipeline, and you have that conversation like a moron, like a million times. And that's because like that's the core of your entire business. So there is this concept that you like have to continuously improve the way that you do data and machine learning and deployment, because it's your business. That's you just got to keep talking about it. It's not like, okay, we had the conversation one time, we're done forever now. It has to be like a continuously evolving, lots of effort thing. Like I really, really good examples in finance. So you build an alpha model, it's like making you money, it's in the market, it's trading, and you go like, okay, I'm done forever, time to retire. No, what's going to happen is through time, with guarantee, over some time horizon, whether it's a week or a year or 9 months or 18 months, the model will make incrementally less money until eventually it gets squeezed out of the market, because market efficiency just dictates your cool trick that you discovered eventually is going to get like optimized away, because the market is a ruthless optimizer, and the world is just the market writ large. So if you're not a market asset trading, equities trading firm, you're just operating in a bigger marketplace called life. So you still have to, continuously improve and innovate, and you don't just go like, I press the buy AI button, I'm done. You have to retrain your models on new data as things evolve. Think of the Netflix example. People's taste in movies changes over time. You have to retrain the models of what movies to recommend. So like AI and being data-driven is a process rather than like a box of software that you buy.
And that's just that, because I was just thinking that we were talking about middle managers, like if I wanted them to come up with initiatives or come up with ideas of potential places for them to go, hey, we should look at this from really an AI perspective as opposed to out of the box solution perspective. It's almost like organizations almost like kind of need a decision matrix, or that kind of says, hey,
Exactly.
That's when you need to kind of consider, hey, this could be a really cool project that we could be taking a look at from a grander scale.
Exactly. So if you think about it just like for management consulting, forget AI for a second, what you want is a subject matter expert who will help you to prioritize what to do. And so that's part of what we do.
I love that. Oh, this is great. I am a management consultant, so you're speaking my language. So this works out perfectly.
Yay.
So tell me something else. So we hear what companies are doing wrong. What kind of advice would you give to them? For them, especially the ones that are scared to even dabble into it. What first steps would you advise them to take?
I like to think of this whole area as the quick and the dead. Like there's disruption afoot. Bad things are happening to good people. And so you kind of have to be dabbling. I would say like don't put everything on one POC, but think about the plumbing. So like I was saying, if you like have a infrastructure project, think like SAS AI, SAS AI, it doesn't do anything. It's a platform, right? But by having that kind of core technology, or Kubernetes, right? By having the plumbing, doing a POC becomes less painful. So VMware is a really big one. Just having the ability to spin up VMs in your internal cloud helps you to do AI stuff. So we've provisioned to customers an image that goes into their library of like VM images that they can spin up the beginnings of an AI project. And then you've got an ETL job to connect the data into that VM to do whatever. And then some job that barfs back data, or like it stands up a REST API and you can integrate it. But like that doesn't say what the project is even about, what this POC is about. It's just like having the ability to get from 0 to 1 is a really big deal if you want to be competitive. So if every new project idea is like, let's get a screwdriver and a new computer and a network cable, that's not very effective. So forgetting what the AI does, just having the ability to try stuff will increase the chances of success. And so like, for example, we just installed something at a stock exchange that is really, really, really hard to do. Thankfully, that is a good thing, right? Otherwise you could just go like +1. Thank you. But that type of experience shows you they've done the homework to be able to accept new systems and ideas into their organization. And that's kind of like an internal validation that you're doing the right things when someone outside the organization makes something and you can then use it. Often in banking, there's this really big problem of custom. People think that banks all come off like a bank printer that makes generic banks, but they're all just like a big ball of custom code because everything's secret. And so they all have a transaction table, a customer table. Like they've got the same stuff, but they each did it by hand themselves by like taking this system and that system and duct taping them together. And so like you can't expect someone else to make your organization compatible with new stuff. It's your job.
Yeah,
so it takes effort.
Yeah, but it's hard, right, to figure out what the first step is. So it sounds like the first step is almost kind of doing an inventory assessment to see, do you have the kind of frameworks that you can actually leverage, or there's things that you kind of need to optimize inside, and then you can build on top of that.
Exactly. So like this is not a new story. When people said like, we're going to do cloud stuff, it was the same story. You get subject matter experts, you do gap analysis, you make a project plan. And that was like the build up towards getting to where we were 10 years ago kind of thing. So for companies, like being in existence is not a big surprise. They know what to do. It's just that there's so many companies that have not done it yet. We're in like the Wild West, where you see like a very large successful organization that's done nothing, and then a really small feisty company that's like right there at the leading edge. And you go to yourself, this isn't how this, like the textbook says this is not supposed to be this way. But there's a disruptive period where like this froth and weird things are happening, and we're in it. We're like right in the middle of this like transformative time where like out with the old and in with the new, not just within organizations, but entire organizations. And again, the cab industry is one small example, but it's not just about, oh, I'm in the wrong industry, I guess I'm dead. It's also about, large organizations that decide, I don't need to do new, I know what I'm doing, and trouble happens.
I love that. But for even with organizations, like say they don't know what problem they want to solve, but they know they've got a bunch of different things. Can you go in and do some sort of like a maturity assessment for them to see what they have?
So like across the industry, it's called like a readiness assessment. I don't really like that term, but apparently the management consulting people like it. I like to think of it as a gap analysis that could lead to projects. But again, I don't get to pick what things are called.
No, you could rename anything. We're in a different world now. Old and is new. And honestly, how many times do we take the same terminology and we have to reinvent it? So, for example, I was just doing a podcast about the word innovation, and I actually asked this innovation expert, is it time for us to come up with a new word for innovation? Because it's just so overused that it just feels so everyone does it when they're not.
You mean it's not very innovative?
Totally not. It's so not. So not. So I was dying to ask you this earlier. Where did your name for your company come from, Lemay? Was there some sort of inspiration?
Yeah, it's my business partner's last name.
Oh, that's it? Okay.
Done.
Done. Okay, there ends up my curiosity. And where does Stallion fit into all this?
Okay, so let me explain to you the like Lego pieces of how this works. When you make a bunch of money, you get to make a choice. Are you going to keep it, or are you going to make a bigger company? So we decided to do this long-term organic growth thing. Lemay is a consulting firm that we started literally, not metaphorically, in my garage. So Matt and I did our thing. We had this whole interesting launch and startup story, and then we started to make money and get too busy and start to hire people, and we said, okay, we can take the excess capital and we could keep it, or we could keep getting bigger. And we decided bigger sounds good. We'll do the slow and steady wins the race. And so we added one more person. We're now at 11 this week, hopefully hiring number 12. And that's in the Canada office. We have one physical office where everybody sits. We met a really interesting customer in the asset management space who said, we like your work. We want you. And we're like, but we're not for sale. And they were like, okay, but like we're in the Middle East. We're in Dubai. And let's copy paste you. Let's take all your brain power and set up a joint venture and make you, but in Middle East, North Africa. And that's what we did. So we have another copy of us that we own as a joint venture. And it's basically a revenue source. So me, Matt, we fly back and forth to Dubai to do really interesting projects, talk to people. And there's like a team there in Dubai and a team here in Ottawa. And we're like sister companies. So we also took some of that excess capital and for a couple of years funded the development and bring up of our product, which is not part of the services company. It's a separate company. So intercompany transfers are a thing. And so that's an AI play in the internal audit space, doing text analysis to help companies do stuff. So yeah, we're building, growing, doing interesting stuff.
You are. Like, I can't believe how much you're doing. Like, that's why I was so fascinated by you. That's why I had to reach out to you, because I was like, wait, AI is such an interesting platform to begin with, and there's so much confusion in this space to begin with, because everyone wants it and they want to be doing a lot, be part of it somehow. But you've managed to do like really interesting things, from taking it from not just consulting perspective, where you're helping organizations be able to optimize it, leverage it, teach people how to use it, the knowledge transfer, the skills, but you've also turned it into a product as well, because like the AuditMap.ai, I was like, how amazing is that? Because audit, to your point, and by the way, I actually am a CPA, it is such a mundane task of trying to find things. And I have so many clients that I worked with in the telecom space that had so much revenue leakage that they didn't even know that was happening.
Yeah. So once you see it in the accounting books, you lose already. The idea is like you want to catch it before. And just the amount of documents is just breathtaking. People think of like a 100-person company and they go like, just read the documents. But big companies are not 100-person companies. They're 10,000 or 100,000 person companies. And like just the information doesn't go upstream properly. It doesn't bubble up properly. So yeah, like I was saying, in compliance, it's slow, it's painful to do internal audit, and they do sampling. So like that's not ideal. Really what this tool does, like Lemay doesn't scale. We can add one head at a time, but we have to be the smartest person in the room, because we're going into these big organizations that have internal AI teams. And like, if we're not super, super awesome, they're not going to give us money. Mm-hmm. So like that model doesn't scale. Whereas being a product company does scale, but it took a lot of investment up front that we had to like slowly take money out of the consulting business and put it into AuditMap to like help it nurture and grow. We've done installs at large organizations, which is cool. We're waiting for the announcement phase where we start to make lots of noise about the cool stuff we've done. But yeah, like the customer pull was there. This was not my idea. This was Matt's idea. He gets all the credit. He saw this coming as like a good idea, and we put in the money to make it happen over a long period of time. But yeah, building a product is not like doing consulting. It's more expensive, more difficult to like revenue justify as you're like building the thing with no revenue. But we took no investors, so we like own everything. It's kind of cool.
So wait, you're 100% bootstrapped?
100% bootstrap.
Wow. So for listeners out there, this means that this is their own money that they are playing with. So they are invested, not only just emotionally and passionately, they're financially 100% invested in it. So if it doesn't grow or scale, they're taking the financial risk, where others actually go to investors to take on that risk, and then they get to just do the smart stuff. So this company, these guys are 100% all in, mind, body, and soul. Is that the best way to say it?
Yes, it is. And really, the business model is very straightforward. We make in American and we pay in Canadian. If you have to go to like the highest level possible, that's helpful.
So what's next on the map for what do you think is going to happen next with AI? Like, where do you think it's going to go?
So if you look at the Gartner hype cycle over the past like 5-6 years, machine learning and AI seems to be like kind of stuck at the top and hasn't dipped yet. I think growth, I think we're going to continue doing exactly what we're doing. We're going to allocate more and more resources into AuditMap as the mitosis happens and the two companies separate. Also, it's good to be in like a revenue position now with AuditMap. So finally, doing installs and POCs, and so that's kind of cool. I would imagine we're going to have some kind of transaction for AuditMap in the next 12 months. It's kind of like the growth curve is going to make it impossible to not do that. But that's the point you want to do it. At the point when you're like, it makes no sense to do this organically, let's just go big. But for Lemay, I don't see that happening. We've talked to both Canadian venture and US venture, and we don't really fit the formula so good. And we don't have to. If I have to take a day off, I just take a day off. I don't have to, call HR and feel bad because I'm not working well for the investors or whatever. I'm the investor. It's me. So that works. It's a nice feeling to, have employees that can do stuff for you. And I like making it a nice place to work because I work here. So like we have a health plan, we have benefits and all the usual nice stuff. Competition for talent is extremely fierce. We have lost people. Thank you, Morgan Stanley. That was real nice of you. And so we can't necessarily compete on money, but we can compete on interesting. So we do really interesting stuff. We go into various companies doing cool stuff. Whereas like if you join up with Google, super cool, but you're probably going to be like in the Gmail team working on like one thing. And in your 20% time, you're like extra time from Google, you'll do some fun project. It's an acquired taste. I don't want to talk trash about all our different competitors, but what I do want to mention is if you look at the AI supplier list from Government of Canada, our logo is right up there with like Amazon and Google, and so like we managed to be punching way above our weight. Like we're a small team, we're like a dozen people, and we managed to get the cred on the street to do really, really big projects. So that's kind of cool. Like that was a really nice validation. We've collected over time like support letters from past clients, but the big win was getting into tier 3 of the AI supplier list. Kind of made a big difference. They evaluate you based on what have you done, and they ranked us like right there at the top of the AI consulting world. So that was cool.
Well, I have to say, because first of all, I big, huge companies like Google and all those guys, yes, you're right. You're going to get put in a small spot. And what I love about small businesses is that you get to be closer to the customer. You're really much more closer to where the market's really going, which actually makes you ahead of the curve faster than you would be sitting and learning from, for example, like a Google, if a small thing. So it's a lot, you get a much more breadth and more skills, and you'll get to a variety of different experiences.
Yeah, if ever you find that your business model is Google's business model, choose something else. Like don't go fighting in the ring with an elephant. So we're doing the classic thing. We found a niche that we think is really cool in internal audit. It's not even looking at numbers, just looking at the text, and we're getting traction. We're getting like lots of interest. I don't know what the future is going to be, but it's going to be something big. Like we're in the point where we're like validating through money and installs, not through like, what do you think of my idea? So that's always good. And as far as like more broadly, the like AI industry, it's very rich. What you see is like, there's a lot of bullshit also. Like there's so many people who are saying they know what they're doing, but they don't know the latest stuff. And it's tough. Like, things keep changing, and if you don't know what's like the right shovel for the right job, and you've just got one size shovel, and you're like, "I'll work for money." Unfortunately, companies can't tell the difference between that guy and like the really good guy. So you got to do it based on reputation, and like the industry itself. People don't realize this, but the good people all know each other. So like, there's us, like. Immersive Data Labs is a good example. Why am I promoting my competition? But like we're buddies. Like we'll hang out and have a beer. The employees know each other just because the space is teeny tiny of the really high end consulting firms in AI. They kind of know each other. And then you have like the really, really big players that they're subcontracting out the work. I've seen some really hilarious shenanigans that you see all the time in consulting, but you wouldn't expect in AI, where like very, very often we're not the prime. I have no ambition to like that I have to get my name stuck on stuff. And so what we'll see is like a company will say like, okay, there's 6 or 7 bids. I'm going to pick the company with the biggest name, but they immediately subcontract to the smaller guy because they're like, I don't know how to do this. And I'm fine with that. They got their cut. They did their thing, but the company should just know that there's this feeder system going on, and whoever you hand the money to, there's just like a cut that disappears, and then the actual subject matter experts end up doing the job. And I've heard various interpretations for like why that's a good thing, because the big company will stand behind it if anything goes south. So like I'm willing to accept that we're the right size fish, and I know where we fit inside the school of fish. We're not like a big giant shark. We're not purporting to be, but yeah, I'm happy to do, significant deals, and, everybody gets paid, everybody goes, so I'm happy. What's interesting though is we've started to, over the past 18 months or so, we've just kind of dropped off the really smaller clients because they don't make enough money to justify our cash flow. Mm-hmm. And so we're focusing on the larger deals. In the same way that in an audit firm, you wouldn't take a company that's like 100% headcount and do like an AI audit install. For the same reason, for like a custom AI project, for small companies, like especially startups, they're kind of screwed because I don't want to do a 20K project. It doesn't move the dial. It's just to set up and get running is more effort than that money. So yeah, there is like a dynamic of in the current setup of the industry, the bigger companies are getting much better service than the smaller companies.
Mm. Well, and don't forget, and the other thing is that it's interesting that you're saying this because your company as well, you've gone through a different maturity level. So, right. And you're scaling in a different way. So now it has to be that you're going to have to prioritize where are you putting the biggest bang for the buck? What's giving the best ROI so you can continue to grow and make our impact.
So like we used to work on Upwork. We don't do that anymore because it's too small. But also, so Google loves us. I don't know why, but like if you Google like how to price an AI project, we're number one on the internet. So like Google really likes our content marketing and like how we're positioning ourselves. And that works. So like, yeah, the reason I've been publishing both academically and in blogs and stuff, is that like getting the word out that way is just as effective as like just barfing money into Google Ads to like, we don't do the Google Ads stuff. We haven't for this whole 3 years. I find that like the paid ads game is regressive. Like all it says is I have money, want to work. It doesn't say like I'm awesome. So I would rather prove I'm awesome than go like I spend money to like put up a big sign in neon, come give me your money. And yeah, the industry is set up in such a way that it's actually kind of a meritocracy, at least right now. So that like the best teams bubble to the top because they've always got work and they get bigger. And so there is still, logic behind how the industry is running. And again, like if you go to 10 different machine learning events and you see like, you start to notice the faces are the same every time, that like it's because it actually is a small group of people that is the AI industry. I was very surprised to see what small proportion of the population are these actual like industry leaders or whatever you want to call it. Like not the sales, marketing, support staff, just the dev part is like, I forget what the number is, like under 2% of the population. It's tiny, but it's responsible for like a huge amount of the tax revenue collected. I'm happy to pay taxes. It's all good. But that to me was interesting, that the disproportionateness of it is not well known. That like if you change economic conditions, let's say the Canadian dollar quadruples against the American dollar, the tax base in Canada shrinks dramatically. Everyone would just leave. The reason people are happy to stay in Canada right now is because we have a really good research industry. And second to that, we have a low cost of living compared to California. So if those dynamics change, people will move to Boston and California and New York. And I have a few friends who boomeranged. They went out there, made good money, and went like, I miss Canada, and then came back.
I get that. I mean, I moved to England for 8-9 years, and same thing. I came back. It's just it's a really different world. I love the fact that you said something. First of all, I really love how humble you are. I think that's just the really beautiful quality about you, and says so much about how people can actually, when they work with you, what kind of experience they're going to get. Because what you actually said, and I thought this was really fascinating, was that basically Google authentically recognizes you guys for being great at what you do without somebody spending money on Google ads or whatever it is. Like they authentically recognize you guys as being really great.
Well, yeah, it's not like there's a person who works at Google who was like, I like these guys. Yeah. The algorithm was just like, people read this stuff. We should promote it.
No, I get it. But what I'm saying is that the algorithms and being that you are an AI,
Yeah,
it
it's
makes
a really
sense.
nice validation. Like I don't do too much like SEO, SEM. I don't get into it too much, but every now and then I'm like, I look for something and then like we come up and I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
That is so good, though. But it just shows again that you can actually do that. You're doing this for your clients. You're doing it for yourself, right? Like it's just that whole mirror image.
But if you want to see the flip side, if you Google my name, there was an ambassador to Israel named Dan Shapiro from the U.S. to Israel, and I'm like, damn it, I'm never going to be famous ever. So yeah, there's a lot of Dan Shapiros. One of them's like a dean. I'm never going to make it to the stratosphere of the other Dan Shapiros. But yeah, at least our company is like Googleable.
Yeah, but you're a doctor. Is the other Dan Shapiro's also all doctors too?
They're so accomplished. Couldn't they all just be like plumbers or something? I don't know. So yeah, like I'm not the biggest Dan Shapiro by a large margin.
Well, in my world, you definitely are. Now, can I ask another last question? We talk about competition is fierce for talent, right? And we hear it all of the time. What tips do you have for those that actually want to start to kind of learn a bit more about AI and start to dip their toes in there to kind of, do a career switch? Like, what kind of advice would you give?
Doing a career switch kind of pivot mid-career is very difficult. You kind of have to go back to school. So Andre Burkhoff from Gartner has a really good book called The 100-Page Machine Learning Book, which annoyingly doesn't have 100 pages. It has more. But if you read the relevant Cole's Notes kind of text, you're part the way there. There's good kind of like video podcast type things that will get you caught up on the industry. Like what's a good one? 2-Minute Papers. Carlos Jornari Fahir, he's the guy who does that. So that's really nice. Like saves you hours and hours of reading papers. You just like see it in video. Like resources like that will get you part the way there, but there's too many landmines and fallacies to go like, I'm just going to do it. Because some of them are very, very sneaky statistical things. And if you do 90% right and 10% wrong, you fail. That's the problem with AI, that it's like very unforgiving in making mistakes. Like you make a thing, you convince yourself that it works, and you put it in production, it just fails. And you go like, why? So like if you make one of these small statistical mistakes, it can aggregate into, so like the example I'll give is dogs versus snow. You've got, and it's not my example, I think I heard it from Professor Green, but anyhow, you've got like a big stack of pictures of like dogs in like houses and then wolves in like the forest. And you train some AI model that labels these pictures as like dog or wolf. And if you have a classifier that works with like 100% precision, recall, accuracy, it's like, it's telling you I'm perfect. And then you go like, okay, I'm ready to deploy this thing, gonna go make my money, put it into the real world. And you put it into the real world and it fails. It's like 0% accurate. And you go like, oh my God, I did all the science right. I tested it on data I never saw before. What happened? And it turns out that what it's doing is it's a snow detector. All the pictures of the wolves are in snow. And the machine learning model was like, I like snow. So if you like crop out the dog and stick in a wolf, it's like you're inside a house, therefore you're a dog. So there are models that can tell you which pixels is the machine learning model looking at to make its prediction. If you don't know about that, if you just like go with what the textbook says validation, you can make really big mistakes that like they're actual industry examples. I don't know who I want to pick on today, but there's a social media site that started to filter pictures of people in bathing suits because they were like naked, naked, naked. And you go to yourself like, no, they didn't do it right. But yeah, I would say like getting into this field is hard and we're very, very selective, but it's always good to learn new things and to learn more. Just don't go like, I know what I'm doing now. Don't do that ever. Even if you're an expert in the field, there's still more to learn. Because it's dangerous. Like unlike if then else code, this stuff has very deep problems that will like jump up and bite you really, really hard with no notice. So be like kind of nervous all the time, constantly, and maybe you got a shot.
I love that advice. I love that. Dude, this has been brilliant, honestly, so insightful and honestly really, really great. Any last kind of words of wisdom that you could share with us? Because I've been writing down all the barfs analogies you've been saying, and I've been dying of laughter.
So you were saying before we got onto the thing, like what's kind of Canadiana, like what kind of stuff should I recommend from Canada? Mm-hmm. And I have to say, if you've been to Tim Hortons, there's something called a double-double. So let's say you order like an extra large coffee, which now they've changed the sizes, so it's extra, extra large. So the extra large coffee and you get a double-double. What I'm entertained by is that you can go to a drive-through window and order a extra large double cupped. And it's a legitimate reason to say double 3 times.
No way!
Yeah, a double cupped. And it's totally legit. It's like a triple-double, but it's allowed because it's like a valid thing on the menu.
No way! That's hilarious.
So if you want to say double 3 times for a totally legit reason, as you can tell, I'm very into like natural language understanding stuff, but I can't find any other reason to say double 3 times on purpose.
No, I can't imagine that either.
A double cupped.
Yeah, well, it's just weird. You get to say double, triple times. Like it's, that's crazy. Oh my God, I'm going to totally do that. The only thing I love at Tim Hortons is their jalapeno bagels. That thing.
Interesting. Spice of life. Very spicy.
Very, very. I think that's the best thing out there in Tim Hortons. But now this trick in the drive-thru, I want to see how many people if they actually give it to me or not.
It would be entertaining if they go like, what?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go for the what factor. And finally, how can our listeners connect with you?
So you can reach me at Daniel@Lemay.ai. That's my email. You can also look up how to price an AI project, and you'll see like the article on Google and go like, he wasn't making it up. It's real. But yeah, you can just go to Lemay.ai, look around. We've got a contact form. There's ways to find us. Reach out if you want to say hi, but the bigger picture here is it is a very dynamic time right now.
It definitely is. And guys, listeners, I'm going to put all the links to the show in the show notes so you can just easily find him and really message him or follow him because he's super smart, as we can tell, and he does amazing things out there in the industry. So you can be able to easily follow him and find out what he's up to and maybe even use him in your organization because you know what? You've just got a taste of the experience that you're going to get working with him.
Well, that would be very nice.
Thank you so much for joining and listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode or any other episode, please share with your friends and colleagues. You can share on social media, the email link, the newsletter, and so on. Let's continue to support these Canadian innovators and help them really grow into bigger brands. Awareness and knowledge is totally key. Anyways, I can't wait to talk to you next week. Cheers.